Good evening. I hope you all had a fantabulous weekend. The weather was awesome, and I'm hoping that you got out and enjoyed some of the sunshine that we had today. It's only going to get better. We're winding down. We've got about 4 weeks of class left, and you're noticing you've got 2 weeks of work, and then you're going to have 2 weeks of putting together a lot of that material into a web page, but more about that later. This week we're going to do a flipped classroom to a greater extent. And to a lot of you, this is going to be a little backward. You're going to ask yourself, why did I have you create a flipped classroom video before you'd ever designed a lesson to do as a flipped classroom? And that was intentional on my part. So often we spend so much time as teachers putting together the plans that we often forget that a lot of material and a lot of things can be covered in a short amount of time. Flipped classrooms are typically going to be a 45-minute class period, 50-minute class period, or a 90-minute class period, depending upon the school. And what they actually do at home is only going to be between 5 and 10 or 15 minutes. Not a lot. It's not a lot of homework. It's not the 90 math problems that I recall from my days of homework. So I wanted you to just simply understand that to do the video isn't that time consuming because it shouldn't be that tedious in the amount of content that is there. I can tell you this, the videos that I watched today were outstanding. You guys rocked on those first time flipped lesson videos. I couldn't believe the quality that I was seeing in those videos. You need to pat yourselves on the back. So this week I'm going to have you now look at it from the perspective of the front side of creating the flipped classroom lesson. So you have a template. Let me show you where that's at in here. So you have a template in Remember Content, and we are on week 13, flipped classrooms. And it's this one right here. This is the document that we're looking at over here, okay? Now this is a template used out of New York University that we've used in our classroom as well. And I'm going to go through this just really quickly. So basically you're just going to create a lesson. And what that lesson is about, I don't care. It could be for any age level. It could be for any subject area. It could be one that you've seen before. And if you really felt like you couldn't come up with something, you could go find a lesson and transform it or modify it into a flipped lesson. That would be okay with me, all right? So I want you to just give it a title, and titles are always better if they're kind of catchy. What subject area and what grade level? And tell me what that student needs to know before they ever get to this lesson. It just gives me a scope of where they're at within it. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to spend more time on how this lesson plan is created to be done where the intensive work is done in school, but the instruction is done at home. So when you look at these right here, how much time are you really going to spend on that first exposure, which would be done at home? How much time would you really spend on an in-class activity? And how much time would you spend on a post-class activity, which again could be a mixture of in-class and at home as some sort of a flipped lesson. So this right here is just there if you were going to create a worksheet, which I'm not a huge worksheet fan. You could. I'd like to see kind of what you would do, but again, you guys, some of you are really good already at this. Some of you are further along in your education than others. So I'm not going to grade you on how well your lesson plan is put together here. I'm going to grade based upon how you're thinking about the actual work being done in class and the lesson itself being done outside of class. Okay? So you just follow these steps. Step 1, define the content, scope, learning objectives, and instructional strategies. And I've left all of the material here. These are explanations of those kinds of things that you need to put into step one. This is an example of, let's say you were going to teach how to do simple addition with two numbers. So 2 plus 2 equals 4. 2 plus 3 equals 5. The content here is going to be addition. The learning objective is mastering the simple addition properties of twos, and what tasks, questions, or activities are you going to have them do. That's all that pre-thinking. It's all that brainstorming that you have going on before you ever get to where the actual meat of it is. So what are you going to do in order to get them so that they know and have access to some of the knowledge before they ever get to class? That's what goes into step two. This is step three, the activities that motivate the students to prepare before class. What kind of big questions are you going to leave them? What kind of things are you going to have them engage in based upon the video that you're creating or the small activity that you're having them create? Those kinds of things. Okay? Step four, and I've highlighted that for a particular reason. Step four is really the only part that will be done in class itself. Then you've got step five, and you've got some freedom here. Some of this could be done in class. Most of it I want to be done outside of class. And then you've got step six. How will this be an ongoing kind of a thing? So there's an awful lot of words on here, and just looking at this earlier, I think I'm going to knock this down a little bit so that there's a little less text and just a little bit more of a template to help you out, and I plan on having that uploaded by tomorrow. Again, I'm not going to grade you on how well you align standards, and I'm not going to grade you on how well you master the use of an active verb in stating the objectives. I'm looking to see how well you could plan to do a flipped lesson for your content area, subject, and level that you choose. You have 2 weeks to do this. This isn't due until the 13th of April, and that's quite a while. It's right before Easter. You will have, again, a discussion post to do this week. Or no, you don't. No, you don't. We didn't have you do the discussion post this week because we wanted you to spend some time actually muddy watering in through this lesson plan that you have to create. So work on creating that lesson plan. Don't worry about a discussion post. Again, if you have any questions, you just simply need to ask me. I will repost a more concise, more easily understood template by tomorrow. And again, if I somehow forget, my mind doesn't always remember to do things, or I think I've done them sometimes and I actually haven't. Just shoot me an email and say, hey, Mary, where's that template at? And I will make sure that it gets to everybody. Okay. Again, don't forget, you need to watch these videos. They will help you grasp the ideas and the concepts of this flipped classroom. It is a very common and becoming more common idea. I was at an in-service on Saturday, and the theme throughout the entire day from an awful lot of teachers is that they are no longer sending homework home. They may be sending home a reading assignment, or they may be sending home have dinner with grandpa and find out what the Korean War was like. Really active, relevant things that gather knowledge, but don't really make them test their application of that knowledge in the homework setting. And I've heard that from parents throughout my teaching as well. They don't know how to do some of the math that's being done anymore. If you're gone from a math classroom for 10 years, you lose some of those skills. So when your freshman in high school brings home algebra and needs some help, a lot of us don't remember how to do that, and we need to be cognizant of that, and we need to remember that. So I think this is a pretty muddy week because I think getting this template filled out may be a challenge for some of you. For others, it may be very simple. Do what you need to do in order to accomplish that task. Next week, we're going to bop into blogging, um, which is part of, if you've heard of Charlotte Danielson gathers artifacts for teachers, from teachers, in order to show that they are actually mastering and teaching the standards. And part of that is producing evidence. We're going to get into blogging. You're welcome to look ahead. You're welcome to look into week 15 and 16, where you're putting all of this material together. I would prefer that if you start that, you ask a lot of questions ahead of time. My goal is to have the criteria list out of what needs to be included in the web page next week. But if you wanted to go ahead and start looking at that too, you could. Again, if I can be of any help, don't hesitate. Email me, send me a text, stop into my office. I'm around. Check the feedback on any of the assignments that I've given you. Make sure that you know why you got the grade that you did. And then we'll go from there. Have a fantabulous week, and I hope to talk to most of you soon. Bye.